Loyalty is something both rare and precious. Being true through the bad times as well as the good is rarer still. And lifetime loyalty is one of the rarest gifts of all. And this is as true today as it always has been. Today we're going to start a 4-week look at the story of Ruth. Ruth, an outsider, not an Israelite, is the very essence of loyalty and gives us a glimpse into how transformative that quality can be. Hello and welcome to Tales from the Scrypt. I'm your host, Louis Marsh, Senior Pastor of River Church right here in Parker, Arizona. I'm glad that you're with us, and I hope you'll stay with us through all 4 weeks as we share the amazing story of Ruth. We know almost nothing about Ruth's life. She was born and raised in Moab and apparently lived a quiet and normal life. Until she met Naomi, that is. Now, Naomi was a Jew and had lived in Bethlehem in Judah. Her husband had led her and his 2 sons into Moab during the Midianite occupation of Israel. They stole so much food that Elimelech chose to flee the country so that he could feed his family. And we aren't told, but I'm sure the irony of leaving Bethlehem, which means house of bread, Bethlehem in Hebrew, to find bread wasn't lost on them as they fled. Upon arrival, they settled into a normal life for a while until Elimelech died. Now Naomi was alone and responsible to care for her 2 sons. There were also many other Jews who lived in Moab during that time, and they had the same situation. However, both of Naomi's sons chose to marry Moabite women. This was not forbidden in the law, so Naomi approved it. For a decade or so, things went well for them. But then both of her sons also passed away. We aren't told how they died, but remember that without today's medical care, the mortality rate back then was much higher than it is in today's developed countries. So now Naomi was left alone in a country not her own with 2 younger women who clung to her in their grief. But then a ray of hope entered her life when Naomi heard that Israel was free. So she decided to go home, try and find some relatives and live there. However, both her daughters-in-law said they wanted to go with her. So close had they grown that they thought of her as family instead of their own parents. Ruth protested. "Return home, my daughters," she said. "I'm too old to remarry. There will be no more sons of mine for you to marry. Go back to your parents and find new husbands there. I am old and bitter because of what the Lord has allowed to happen in my life. Leave me now and let an old woman go." Orpah, not Oprah, decided she would go back to her family, but Ruth declined to go and clung instead to Naomi, whispering softly. Naomi urged Ruth to follow her sister-in-law, but Ruth was having none of it. "Please don't urge me to leave or turn away from you," she said. "Where you go, I go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God." Ruth didn't know it, of course, but she had just said what would become the standard for what real loyalty and love is for thousands of years, and it remains so to this very day. But she wasn't finished yet. "Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried." She continued, "May the Lord deal with me ever so harshly, if anything but death itself ever separates us." Surely Naomi's heart had to have broken again. What could you say to someone in the face of such an amazing statement of love and devotion? How could you turn away from someone who was not just willing, but absolutely 100% committed to being with you for the rest of your life? Who could stand before such eloquence? And so Naomi bowed to her daughter-in-law's wishes. They left the next day, and after a few days' travel, remember, they were walking, they arrived in Bethlehem. Naomi's heart must have lifted to see the buildings of her hometown once again. To Ruth, this was all new, and she clung to Naomi a little bit tighter as they entered the town. Both were looking around themselves. Ruth looked around, taking in all the new sights, but Naomi was looking at the people. It didn't take long for her to believe she recognized some of them. It had been over 10 years, so they looked a little older, and after the famine imposed on them, they were probably all much thinner, but yes, she knew many who were there. Some of the women ran to her, crying, "Can this be Naomi?" In the overwhelming rush of emotion of her homecoming, some of her old bitterness returned, and she said, "Don't call me Naomi. Call me Mara instead, because the Almighty has made my life bitter. I left here full, but I have returned empty." Now, this kind of play on words was common in the ancient world. Naomi means pleasant, while Mara means bitter. Certainly, at this moment, in spite of Ruth's love and devotion, Naomi was indeed bitter, so the name fit her. Like most of us in times of sorrow and grief, Naomi couldn't see the big picture and failed to realize she was far from alone or empty. She was a vessel God was about to use in the coming of the Messiah. Through Ruth, Naomi would not only have grandchildren, but that grandchild would be the grandfather of King David himself. Neither Ruth nor Naomi knew any of that, of course. Their stories weren't done at all, and in fact, they were only just beginning. Even though Naomi couldn't see it, God was moving, and very soon would be using her to accomplish his will. And that's going to wrap it up for the first part of our four-parter on Ruth and Naomi. I hope you'll be back next time for more. If you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. It's free for you, and it's a huge help to this channel that we're trying to build and get started and get moving. Tell your friends about it. Let me know what you think in the comments, honestly, and I'll look forward to seeing you again right back here next week. So until then, God bless you.